I've got the opportunity today to talk to Jason Wenig. Jason is at the Creative Workshop down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it turns out that his company is in fact actually building a modern, antique, as I understand it, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, electric touring car that some parties at least are hoping will replace the carriages in New York City, and obviously, you know, getting the horses and that type of thing off the road there. So, Jason, first of all, welcome to EV World, and it's great to have an opportunity to explore this topic a little more in depth.
Thank you very much for having us. I hope I can answer questions appropriately. So.
Okay, very good. Well, first of all, kind of give us. I would, you know, obviously I could probably get more information, in-depth discussion about what this whole situation is with regarding the carriages up in Central Park. There are obviously concerns for the well-being of the animals and that type of thing. But I'm particularly interested, though, in your role in this, because apparently the group up there, NY Class, I gather, came to you and said, can you build us an, if you will, for want of a better term, a modern antique electric touring car that we can use to replace the carriages. So kind of bring us up to speed on how all this came about.
Sure. The first thing I guess you have to understand is I understand the emotion behind this. Okay, I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I completely get it. There's two sides of the story, and there are people as passionately for the horse-drawn carriages as there are for people placing it.
Right.
But the most important thing is to understand is that I'm a car builder. Okay.
Right.
And although I understand, and I'm an animal lover, right underneath my desk, you can't see, this is my dog, which I saved from the pound. I have another one downstairs who guards the
Yeah, but where's the horse? That's what I
So as I obviously understand my client's perspective on this, but what I do believe is market dynamics. And what my job is to do something, to build something that will give people a choice. And what it comes down to is people are talking about this as an electric car or an antique car or a modern electric car as you're discussing it.
Right.
This is my take on it. I was approached by this group a number of years ago. And so in so many words, do you know about the horseless carriages? Do you know anything about New York City? And all the answers were yes. I do love animals. I understand the plight of the horses. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I met my wife there. I got my education there. I lived in the city. Everything you can imagine. I'm a true New York guy. Okay.
Right.
I understand what the carriages bring to the city. And for me, it's really not the horses. It's the emotion. It's nostalgia. It's a transportation in time. It's getting away from it all in a bustling city. That's the emotion that people are trying to connect with.
Right.
For me as a car builder, designer, restorer, I understand these emotions very strongly. I get goosebumps when I walk up to cars on a show floor.
Right.
How can I tap into that emotion? What do I need to do? So I'm not trying, in essence, to build a modern antique car. What I'm trying to do is design and build something that will evoke as strong an emotion for people who are visiting or who are native New Yorkers who don't necessarily see the negative of the horse carriages, only see the positive. What do I need to do to deliver on that emotion?
Right.
What I came back to them with was a car that would have existed side by side with horses at the turn of the century.
Right.
If you Google a black and white image of New York City or almost anywhere in the country, 1907, 1909,
right,
you will see horses and you will see cars.
Yep.
Ironically, most of those cars, as you might know, were electric as well, which most people don't even understand that electric cars were beating gasoline-powered cars for many, many years, up until the First War.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to build something that, in essence, a choice like they had back then. Something that will be as nostalgic, as heartfelt, as thoughtful, and as appropriate as the horses could have or would have been in 1909 or 1907, but today.
Right.
That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to deliver on. The fact that it's electric is awesome and interesting and fascinating. We could talk about technical stuff all day long, but the core is the emotion behind the carriages that I want to deliver in a car.
Okay, so let's talk about how long has this process been going on now then?
Well, it started a couple of years ago when with the first phone call, maybe about 5.
Yeah.
It got serious about 3,
Okay.
and we actually started building about a year ago.
Okay. So what was the you know, you obviously said you're looking for something that evokes the emotions, you know, that would akin to the same emotions people have with the carriages. So how did you go about doing that? What was the process? What did you look at? Did you go to antique car shows? Did you rummage around garages? Did you thumb through old issues of Cosmopolitan? I mean, you know, what did you do?
You know, it's almost an easy answer, but I can get deeper if you want. What I did is I tapped into all the things that I personally love about these antique cars. Now, I get to play with cars from all eras. My favorite era is the brass era, is the dawn, is the Edwardian age. It's 1901 to 1911, 1912.
Okay.
It's men and women, were really figuring stuff out. Before politics and accounting and engineering and computers, most of these guys were actually carriage builders.
Right.
And they just got this crazy, they were inventors. What is this crazy internal combustion engine I heard about? What can we do about it? So they would go into their barn, and you and me would hammer away at something and go for a ride. It would break, they would go back in, they'd try it again.
Right.
When you play with these cars, when you walk up to these original cars, again, I get goosebumps. You see that craftsmanship. You see how they work stuff out. You see where, my good, if I had a computer, I could have made that a lot better, but they didn't.
Right.
And you can see where they took the part off of something that they might have been familiar with, like a bicycle or a horse carriage.
Right.
So all I'm doing is capturing the things that move me over again. It's an homage. I love these things about these cars. I sure hope you do as well, in its most simplistic form.
Yeah.
Now, behind that is thousands of hours of research. Car shows, pictures, books. I've got libraries. I've got historical documents, pictures. I'm a real, I believe, you know, what we do here is forensic restoration. So the research and the depth to what we do is always grounded, always very much grounded. But really, it's the emotion behind it. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the Creative Workshop there. I mean, give us kind of an overview. I mean, while I was waiting for you to get back on the phone with me, I was listening to your message, and that was an education in itself. So maybe for people that aren't familiar with the workshop, kind of give us a sense of you know, who you guys are and what you do.
Sure. Well, this is a traditional restoration shop, coach building facility, custom car building. Under this one roof, about 10,000 square feet, we operate in a 1936 built barn made out of Dade County pine, exposed wood floors, exposed beams. We employ 11 people, trimmers, metal crafters, painters, mechanics. We also have 3D CAD capabilities where we infuse modern technology, SolidWorks we use. And people bring us ideas or physical cars from all countries, all eras, all makes and backgrounds, and it's our job to rebuild them for historical purposes. So as opposed to just fixing cars or making them run better, which of course is part of the process, in many instances people bring us something that has strayed off of the path. Many people have repaired these things incorrectly, but there's true value or importance to those vehicles. And we will restore, rebuild, or design something from brand new to A, rekindle the spirit of something in the past, like this particular project, an homage to something,
right,
or take something extremely rare or valuable that has been destroyed, an old race car, or an old one-off Alfa Romeo, or an old American, you know, muscle car, and painstakingly rebuild it, just like a restoration on a vintage house or an antique house or an antique painting that they find in the Vatican, and they're taking all the dirt off of the Mona Lisa. We practice it every single day. Okay.
Well, being new to the cable world, I finally discovered Velocity, the channel where they've got, I mean, it seemed like every show on there is basically about what you guys do, which is finding these old vehicles in barns and bringing them back to life. So I'm assuming that in this particular case, I mean, did you go find an old Model T chassis that you're adapting, or are you basically creating this car, you know, right from the start? You're bringing in the raw materials, much as they did back in the day and fabricating this thing from the ground up? Or is it just simply a restoration and stretching of an existing vehicle?
This is absolutely raw materials ground up. Number one, it has to be, given the unique parameters in terms of safety, in terms of function, in terms of the EV aspects of it. There's no car that we could have retrofit, so to speak. Second of all, from an historical perspective, I wouldn't want to take an existing car off the road. Remember, if I'm going to be playing with something from 1910, it's historic. So I'm not going to take an historic vehicle and then drastically alter it for this purpose and then have it abused. And furthermore, we have to have a lot of these. So I'm certainly not going to take off 70 of them off the road, okay? But in this instance, we're playing the role of coach builder. We're wearing coach builder's hat. Very, very traditional. We've done this several times before. We start from the ground up and build to purpose. So our clients in iClass have given us the things that they want to do. Then they've coupled with that with the requirements for being legal on the road. We've combined them all together. And in a way, it's got to go from my brain, what I want this thing to look like, through the parameters, through the requirements, then through design and engineering, and then onto the floor for building. And it's sort of a big circle, back and forth. This doesn't work, this will work, this will look good, this won't look good, this will conform to the requirements or the regulations, or this won't. And you keep tugging and pulling and pushing until something comes out the end that hopefully everybody will enjoy.
Okay. So how close, there are some photographs of a scale model, a green, looks like open touring car, vintage 1909. How close is that model to what you are fabricating here in real life?
Well, you know, the model itself is kind of fascinating in that that's 3D printed. So we designed the entire thing in SolidWorks and then went to one of these 3D printers, which is now almost everywhere, but 3 years ago it still was somewhat. We crashed the system with all the parts a couple times. We finally got it to go through the SolidWorks group, and everything's all been printed out in 3D space. But so we are trying to be true to that model, because obviously I designed the model and I really love it, but certain things have changed. So the seating capacity has grown a little bit, the size has grown a little bit. Just fun with design. Things that we did for the model that when we do it in real life don't look as good in real life, scale-wise, tire-wise, requirement-wise. So I believe that to a non-technical person, when you see the model and you see the finished product, you're going to get it. Yes, without a doubt, that's the car. To a technical person, you'll be able to see some of the changes we made, and hopefully for the better.